Hi, I'm Molly McGrain with Sunwest Silver here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we have been in the casting business since 1970. We've also perfected our whole entire system to be completely competitive on a global level. We cast all of our sterling silver charms and our findings here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we're proud to be one of the largest manufacturers in the USA. Today we're going to be talking about lost wax casting, and I'm going to walk you through the process. Lost wax casting is also called investment casting, and it's a process where the original model, which is this, and a mold is made from that model. We're going to be following this particular piece all the way through the process. This is a Celtic bracelet that is a very popular item in our line, and this is the mold that we made from this. This is a silicone mold, but there are many other kinds of molds you can make and other methods and mold material available. So you can see that this is the mold of the bracelet. So each individual piece of jewelry requires one wax model. So we inject wax into each of these molds, and here's the wax piece coming out of the mold. This is what the wax looks like after it's been injected. And we'll take this wax and set it up on a sprue or a tree, is what we call it when we set them up. So now the waxes are in our setup department. And she's going to be attaching these waxes to a sprue tree, which will hold each one of the waxes in place. You can also use an original wax, a single wax. If you have just one wax and you want to make just one piece, this is the process also. You can use almost any organic material that will burn out in the temperatures of the kiln. The kiln runs at a very, very high temperature. Waxes are attached to the sprue and the sprue base, and this will travel from here into our investment room, where we will put it in a flask, which is actually a section of steel piping. So let's move on to that step. This is the plaster or the investment that goes around the wax tree and inside the flask. Our flask, he'll be putting the flask on a vacuum table, and that will vacuum out any bubbles that happen during the process. So we go in here, he's going to vacuum this whole entire bowl of investment. And this will pull all the bubbles out. If you want to get a little closer, you can look down in there. It's almost a boiling situation. Okay, pull that off. So now he's lifting the dome, and the investment has been completely vacuumed, so no bubbles. Oh, there are bubbles in it, but no fewer bubbles than what there were when he mixed it. So now he's going to put the actual flasks up on the vacuum table. He does 6 trays at a time, and now he's going to pour the investment into each and every. He's pouring the investment into each flask. And he'll vacuum each of these flasks. He'll hold a vacuum from the bell jar on these 6 flasks for approximately 2 minutes to get all the bubbles to come up, so your castings come out good and clean. And the investment can be a challenging part of casting. This has to be done absolutely perfectly. If this isn't right, nothing's right. So you've got at least all the waxes in there that you've set up there. If this doesn't happen right, your process is over and you've lost all that work. So it's really important that this happen perfectly. Larry's been doing this for how long, Larry?
40 years, over 40.
Over 40 years. So making sure that the whole entire plate is clean, so he gets a good suction when he puts the bell jar down, then he gets a really good tight vacuum on everything. So everything's been wiped and it's sealing, and he'll vacuum this for 2 minutes now. Flask that has been invested and it's ready to remove the rubber base. These rubber bases come off and we reuse them, and this whole entire flask will be put in the oven. There's a perforated flask, and that's there to assist in a vacuum. The machine will pull a vacuum also, and will suck that metal down into every nook and cranny inside our bracelets. Okay, from here it goes into the oven. Okay, so here's the oven with the flask inside. He's going to be removing that flask and putting it into our machine, which is a NewTek JZ. The temperature of the oven is running. What temperature is the oven right now, Larry?
1050.
Yeah, the 1050 degrees. So this flask will come out of here and go into our JZ. Okay, we're ready to go, getting the flask out of the oven. Flask will be going over into our casting machine. Once the metal is up to temperature, the metal will automatically drop down into the flask. The machine does all the work for you. So, where does it go, Larry? You want to go?
Once it hits 830.
Okay, that's the metal melting in there. You're seeing the molten metal. Once the temperature reaches to 1830 degrees, we're at 1814, 15, 17. We're going to watch the metal drop. Let's go back over here and watch the metal drop. Okay, at any moment the metal's going to, there we go, there it goes, down into the flask. And the metal's going, now it's being sucked into the flask to fill all the cavity that the lost wax has left. Once it's burned out in the oven, all the wax is gone. We just have a cavity to fill up with sterling. Okay? Here's the flask now sitting on the cooling table. The flask is going to have to cool down for about 5 minutes before we can drop it into a water bath, which will the heat from the plaster itself will bubble the plaster or the investment away from the tree, and we'll have a look at the tree, the complete tree cast in sterling silver. Okay, so now we're going to drop the flask into the water bath, and you'll see all the bubbling. That's from the heat from the plaster. It's hot, and it helps to break away the investment from the piece. Okay, there's our flask. With all the plaster has now been removed, the investment. Around here we call it plaster, but it technically is investment. It's a much higher temperature material. Here's the tree. You saw it earlier in the wax form. Now let's take a look at it in the sterling form. This is sterling silver. The black coating on there is oxidization, and that happens because of the copper content of sterling silver. We're now going to water blast it to remove any other residual investment that's left on the piece. That's a high-pressure water system that is blasting away the last of the plaster. Let's go into the clipping and grinding room and get these freed from the tree. Now we're ready to clip the pieces off of the tree. They're initially clipped just to free them from the tree. And you can see the intricate design that we can achieve here. All of these pieces will be clipped off, and this is called the sprue. It'll be cut as close as possible to what the original piece is going to be. Okay? Here, we're pretty careful after every casting to sweep up all of the fines. This is the sprue end. Okay? Now the piece is going to be, we're going to grind it to smooth out this last little burr that ends up on the piece. Grinders that we have in the shop, we have several of them in several stations. And the water is used to keep it from getting hot. And the sprue is carefully removed to smooth out the area so it looks like it was never there. There's one on either side. And it's all a matter of moving your wrists and twisting and turning it to get that nice dome on the end of the bracelet. You don't want to go too far, and you don't, but you need to go far enough. So we'll take a look at this now. This one's finished. And that's how the grinding happens. This piece will now travel into our tumbling room, and we'll go there now, and I'll show you how that process. It's a cut media. It actually takes off the surface of the piece. They're put inside the tumbler for anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. The tumbler is filled about a third full, and the pieces are introduced into the tumbler like that, and they roll. The tumbler will roll all night long and remove all of this black on the outer surface and leave the oxidization down in the smaller areas so you get some depth when you do the piece. In this media, we go to a steel shot. Okay, here's the steel shot. Now this is a burnishing compound or a media. We use a burnishing compound in there, and this is the media. It also tumbles for probably an hour to an hour and a half after it comes out of the 8 to 10 hour tumble with the plastic polymer media. It'll go into this steel media. And this is the final step before the piece is ready to be dipped in an anti-tarnish coat and sent down to our showroom for sales. We'll go look at the finished piece now. The process you've seen is a process that lasts about 3 days. First, we have the original model, which is this piece. And from that piece, we make the mold. And this, as I mentioned, is a silicone mold. The mold is cut open by hand. From the mold, we go to a wax. We make one wax for every single piece. This is a raw casting straight out of the cast. And this piece has been through the tumbling process, which is a two-step, a polymer media, then it goes into the steel shot. And then all these items are dipped in a non-tarnish and are ready to go to the showroom. This is the finished piece, and we do offer a contract casting service. We can cast your items in bronze or in sterling. And if you need to buy this bracelet, you can certainly check out the links in the description below or contact us at info@sunwestsilver.com. We'd love to hear your comments. Thanks so much for watching.